or whatever you call them, since I haven't been paying, especially the 1.2 billion kwacha or million, if it's only for the two entities, or are there any other mining companies which are also struggling? And moving forward, how do we treat that? We have what PS has submitted, the coming in and of the former investor, and putting in those funds, and how do we treat the tax liability, as it were? And Honorable Duck, I wanted to ask something.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to find out from the PS what mechanisms they have put in place at these very mining companies to ascertain how truthful they are in the declaration of the taxes themselves. Because these mines, to be honest, Chair, they've been basically cheating for a long time. They are under declaring, and all sorts of fun activities are happening at these mines. So what mechanisms have they put in place to ascertain exactly the true reflection of what is transpiring, whether these mines really are making a loss, or really it's just the usual maneuvers by the mines? Chair, I submit.
Thank you. I'll allow PS and CG to take those two. Then Honorable Mfalari and Honorable Mnyima, was there a hand? Yeah. Then you proceed with the two questions so that we don't have four. Thank you. PS, you can proceed.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I think in terms of the ensuring, I think we collect the correct taxes. I think the ZRA conduct audit. I think CG will elaborate. After they provide, I think, return, which is as required by the law, at an appropriate time, ZRA, the Zambia Revenue Authority, they go and conduct the audit. So it's from those audits they'll be able also to see whether what was declared and what was paid. If there are any differences, then they'll put a demand that the tax is paid. But apart from that, I think there are other measures which CG probably will elaborate in terms of, if you look at some of the mining operation, we export the aggregates, or rather the mineral ores, not the copper billet. So there is, I think, a system which the government is developing through the Zambia Revenue Authority to ensure that, how do we ensure that tax is paid on those ores is the correct one. I think CG will be able to elaborate on that. CG.
Thank you, Chair. With your permission and the PS permission, I'll ask my colleague, Commissioner Director, just to explain the reforms that we've done to ensure that we drive compliance in the mining sector, and then I'll build up on that. Over to you.
Thank you. Commissioner can proceed.
Thank you, PS, and thank you, CG. So what we've established, as we all know, is that most of the minerals that are mined in this country are not sold within the jurisdiction. They are exported. And since as Zambia Revenue Authority, we have control on the exports. So that's a starting point we've been working on now on the mineral value chain. So we've been capturing the data in the mineral value chain, and we're analyzing that data to understand what is being exported, and then we compare that with what is actually being declared and mined. And that, we feel, is a major initiative that helps us to understand what is actually going on. So we are now very categorical, and we are following through on all the exports in terms of capturing the data on the mining activities in the mineral value chain. We've established a unit within Zambia Revenue Authority of experts, analysts, who are just dealing with analysis of the data that is coming out from the declarations on exports, the payments, and also the production, as it were. Now, on the others, we know that there are also the proliferation of other mining companies that have come on board, the medium, the smaller, that also need to account for the taxes. So what we've decided to do is to form a dedicated unit that is responsible for the small and artisanal mining activities, so that they are delinked from the large mining activities. So we have dedicated staff that are now monitoring all the mining activities in that space. What we've also gone further to do, Honorable Chair, is that we've decided to be appointing some of these aggregators within the mining activities to be agents for withholding of mineral royalty. We know that some of these minerals ores, when they are bought from one town to the other, they are taken to specific processors, okay, smelters, and most of these are now small concentrators being established around. So those now have been appointed as agents for mineral royalty. So when they receive ore from a supplier who has not paid mineral royalty, before they pay for those minerals ores, they withhold mineral royalty and remit to us. And in that way, we've seen that there is some activity and traction which is now taking place, in that most of the ores, as they are sold around, the taxes are paid. So those are the major three items I can speak to internally as initiatives that we are doing to ensure that we get a hold on what is happening in the mining sector in terms of having revenue collection through taxes.
Thank you, Commissioner. Chair, I may just add on. I think we've been at this platform, and it's a question we always expect when we come here, but we may sound like repeating on the same issue. What we need as a country is to monitor the entire value chain. The questions you're asking as Chair, we are more at the end of the value chain, in that we depend on input. Our colleagues, let's say from Minister of Mines, telling us that this particular mine has got this mineral, quantity is so much, and the content of the mineral is such a quantity. And based on that, the value is so much, and we're supposed to correct mineral royalty. What we need is to go steps backwards. Who has a mining license in Zambia? And for which minerals? Are they mining those minerals? If they are mining, are they reporting production in Moses? There's a system already called Moses. Are they reporting production in Moses? If they're not, what's going on? And two, if they're reporting production in Moses, when they bring samples, and by the way, we have a challenge. Most mines take their own samples to the Geological Survey Department, which is not normal. Who would take a sample where they will be charged more? Yeah. So you have mines taking their own samples to the GSD. And that's a sample based on which analysis is made that the content of mineral in this one is such a mineral. And then based on that, we calculate the value of the mineral. So what we need is the entire value chain monitoring. Who has a mine? Are they producing? What mineral are they producing? The mines should be able to even go to the site and pick samples and be able to determine what sample range should we be expecting from this mine. Because samples don't change every day. You don't mine ore of grade so much today, tomorrow it changes to something else. We should know this mine, the range is this. Yeah. So all that data needs to be captured. And all these things we're talking is not rocket science. We've been at this debate for almost 10 years. We went through the process leading to the formation of the Mineral Value Chain Project. And through that, we went to benchmark our colleagues in Tanzania. What have they done? Very simple things, same things. They've set up a framework for mines to report production. They've set up a framework for them to analyze the minerals on their own. And we came back through the mineral value chain. We developed the system, Moses, for the mines to report production,
Chair,
for the mines to apply permits.
Chair.
Yes, Honorable Wamnyima.
Chair, I think we are departing from the issues here. So I think looking at the submission, it would be better if we restrict ourselves to the queries as submitted.
Thank you, Honorable Wamnyima. I think CG take note. He was trying to just give us his passion about it. So he wants us to give us the what we need to look at also as lawmakers. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I'm well guided. It's a cause and effect. What we're dealing with are effects. We need to understand the cause. So in short, Chair, what we need is to quickly push for the formation of a regulator for the mining sector. So that everybody who's producing minerals, they should be able to report. And we should know what minerals are being produced. So I think that's a fundamental reform that we need. And Chair, in terms of accountability for the mining sector, when a tax liability is recognized and it settles on our books, we now look at enforcement in terms of payment. And where a taxpayer is not able to pay and so forth, there are some who enter into time to pay agreements. And so be assured that when a tax liability is recognized in our books, we're able to follow up on all the mines and ensure that they pay. I submit, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable. Yes, Honorable Mamba.
Thank you very much. I also, you have spoken about those that are mining are the ones that should give exactly what they're mining. But then you have the Revenue Authority at the border. We have manganese, literally most of Mukushi, Serenje. There's lots of manganese going out. So are you telling us that the Revenue Authority has not picked up on how much manganese is going out and what is happening to the manganese taxes? I submit, Chair.
Thank you. So before there will be 3 questions or that clarification, Honorable Mufarari, you can proceed, then Honorable Amnima.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I think the question really is on the 2 mines that have liabilities, tax liabilities, areas that are outstanding. Could the CG indicate to this committee what informed you to say these mines are not making profits, and because they are being run by government or institutions, can just let them run as they are? What really informed you? Because as far as we are concerned, these mines are, unless otherwise, maybe you could also indicate to us, PS, whether they have declared any dividends or not, the 2 giants or the 2 mines. And what has informed you to be so kind on these 2 mines that you are saying, no, they are making nothing, and yet they are exporting? The second issue, Chair, is on the mineral content. PS, your minister came to the House and informed us that he is coming up with a commission, a mineral commission, which will help. How do you want to work this commission to work with ZRA or the Revenue Authority in order for us to get the actuals out of these minerals, actual taxes that should come out? I end there, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Amnima.
Chair, considering that mineral royalty has been made deductible for income tax purposes, the collection of tax then becomes very important. Now, when the tax, the officers in the borders, when they are undertaking their work, do you have equipment that informs you that this is copper cathode, this is copper ore? Because all we just hear was saying, no, they are just, these are not, it's not ore, it's not cathode, just by looking at them. Now, who is checking? How are you checking that this is not gold mixed with copper, and that the tax evasion, illicit financial flows is not part of this? How are you checking? Do you have equipment in all the borders? I submit, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Wamnima. PS, there are 2 questions and a clarification from Honorable Mwamba. You can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe I can answer the issue of the dividends. I think where these companies, I think, are paying dividends. Chair, they are not. I think, as I indicated earlier on, I think their operation, I think the past few years has been very problematic. So unless, I think, we receive new investment probably in the future, that's when they'll be able, I think, to have, I think, dividends that will come through ZCCMH because that's what we hold the shares for government. Once ZCCMH has been declared, then that's when you receive dividend as government. I thank you. Let me ask CG to talk about the other issues of
Thank you. CG, you can proceed.
Thank you. So the two mines, as you are aware, they are under discussions through the Minister of Finance in terms of possible new investors to come in. So the decisions are being taken into account the environment and the position that the government is taking in terms of negotiating with potential investors. On mineral content, how do you want the Mining Commission to work with ZRA? Like I indicated, we already simulated how a regulator can work. We had the mineral value chain monitoring project for almost 5 years, which did the work in terms of how a regulator should operate. So we've got a lot of lessons. There were 7 institutions involved. It's not just working with ZRA. Working with the Central Statistics Office then, working with the PACRA, working with RDA, and so all these 7 institutions, we have all an interest in terms of the mineral value chain. So the model is already there on how we can have interinstitutional collaboration based on what was experienced during the mineral value chain. But to build on that, my colleague here indicated that ZRA will form the unit, a mineral value chain analysis unit, where we've, for lack of a better term, poached some staff from some of the institutions and brought them into ZRA. So there are already examples of how the regulator could work based on the activities that were done under the mineral value chain. But the collaboration is not just with ZRA. The Mining Commission should work with the 7 institutions that were part of the mineral value chain. Then during the mineral value chain project, we procured equipment called XRF analyzers. These are gadgets which when you press on a metal, it's able to tell you the content of that particular mineral. So we procured about 18 of them and distributed in the borders. But of course, that's been over 5 years ago. So in some cases, some of them, they're not performing to that optimal standard. We need to replace some of these. But this is part of the equipment that the new regulator, when it comes on board, needs to ensure that they're able to procure and put in place. And we do have also some officers from Ministry of Mines who've been seconded at some of the borders to help with mineral analysis, content analysis. Chair, I submit. Thank you.
Thank you. Clarification on Honorable Mwamba's clarification.
Oh, thank you. So now on manganese, remember when they export, they declare to customs. So we have the records on our system. So meaning that the work that the mineral value chain analysis team does is to see who is exporting minerals. Their tipping will show and the quantity they've exported. We data match with, are they paying mineral royalty? So those that are exporting but not paying mineral royalty, we're able to make follow-ups on them. So that's a continuous exercise that we do. In fact, in Q2, June or so, our team of ZRA officers plus mines, they went to Luapula, Northern, and engaged and documented all the manganese players and made some recommendations in terms of how we can strengthen that, the operations. But it's an area that we're actively monitoring, and we're doing this data matching to detect those who are exporting and not accounting for taxes. But what we observed also is that a number of the smaller players, they sell to the smelters. So we are looking at smelters being a withholding agent that my colleague talked about. You've appointed them? Yeah, so that we've appointed the smelters as agents based on the due diligence that we did. Because a lot of smaller players, they sell to the smelters. So we are looking at accountability at the smelter stage, among others. So those are some of the reforms we are doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Lumai. Honorable Wamnyima, were you indicating? Follow-up question? Maybe you can do your follow-up question, then Honorable Lumai can come in.
Yes, Chair. I just wanted to find out these 18 machines you procured. Which borders don't have them? Are they in all the borders, exit borders? And since you said some of them are not working at optimum, when do you intend to replace them? I submit, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Lumai. Then they'll take up the 2 questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I want to get a clear problem from ZRA. Mr. Chairman, for the last 4 years, 5 years, we have been discussing the issue of failure to co-bond cover on unaccounted for removals in transit. Nearly every year. And every year, Mr. Chairman, ZRA will tell us that come next year, you will not have this issue. But Mr. Chairman, today, ZRA is proposing now to procure electronic cargo. And it appears that ZRA is not putting in punitive measures so that these offenders maybe can be a deter to this issue. So what I want to understand from ZRA, what challenges, Chair, are there to monitor 158 transactions on Kasumbalesa border, such that we can have a loss of 33 million kwacha, and now you want to do away with whichever system you have been using to go and procure electronic cargo. Mr. Chair, I submit.
Thank you. I think CG and the team, you can take note of that question. Let's quickly address, since we are on A and B, we address Honorable Wamnyima's question. Is there any question on part A and B? Yes, Honorable.
I think I had asked what informed the ZRA. We have Minister of Finance here. I think ZRA is saying what informed them was just a policy direction that these mines are on maintenance, care and maintenance. But from my question is, have you looked at the books, at production which is going on as ministry, for you to be well informed about the decisions that you are making? I think that was my question. I really want to know whether these mines, what are the activities on these mines? Have they ascertained the activities on these mines so that as they come before this committee, they're able to tell us as a ministry that we took this decision based on an informed position. I think the CG just indicated that, look, we follow what the ministry says. Could the ministry, then the PS who is here, indicate to us, to this House, that this is what informed them? I submit.
Thank you. Honorable Lungu. On the same A and B, I think we stick to that, then we conclude.
Thank
then
you,
Honorable
Chair.
Mwila will come through.
Thank you, Chair. I think mine is on the issue of appreciation of the late dollar. You did indicate that one of the reasons of maybe underperformance, it was the appreciation of the dollar. What is it that you have put in place to avoid further losses in future so that we don't have this occurrence? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mwila.
Thank you, Chair. Once again, on A, away from the mineral rate, I want to look at the underperformance on the customs duty and couple this with the fuel levy. I take note of the reasons, relating to the waivers and the SIs that have been cited. Now, I want to recall that these waivers were there even in 2021. I think the SIs were just extending the waivers on the importation of fuel, because even where we were coming from before 2022, we still had these in place. So my question, Chair, is why should we have the waivers through these SIs as excuses for the underperformance on the customs duty and fuel levy? I submit, Chair.
Thank you. I know Honorable Lumai we want to come in. Let them answer the three questions from Honorable Mfarari, Honorable Lungu, and Honorable Mwila. Then now you come through with Honorable Wamnyima. Yes.
I just wanted to reinforce Honorable Mfarare's submission, because it is the issue of the coordination between Ministry of Finance and ZRA. Because you cannot just say, because we have been told by finance this is the position, then we take this route. I wanted to understand the linkage between ZRA and finance before they arrive at a decision.
Thank you. PS, you can proceed with those questions and...
Thank you, Chair. I think on the issue of regarding how the information flows, Chair, we have meetings with ZCCMIH. I think at the policy level where we discuss in terms of the operation. And it's from that information which is presented to the ministry where we discover the status, I think, of these mining companies. Chair, as you may be aware, in the case of KCM, I think because there was legal issues which affected, I think, the operation of the company. And these we could see them, and they could share with us at the Ministry of Finance. Some of the meeting could be chaired with by the minister, and we'll share all this information so that we know the status. Certain information has been provided which we've been able to look at, and this is what informs us in terms of the status of the companies. Regarding, I think, the operation, the ZRA, they enforce, I think, the tax. Once they say that private mining companies need to pay the taxes, they engage, I think, individual companies so that they are able to do that. If they are unable to do that, they need to provide the information also to ZRA so that it forms the basis for them to not to collect taxes. And in most of the instances, ZRA also share that information with the Ministry of Finance that we are unable to get the taxes from these companies because of ABCD. And this information, Chair, that's how it flows and helps government, I think, making information. So it's information, Chair, it comes to government through meetings, through submission of certain reports and documents where we discover now the status of the operation of these companies. That's how I think the relationship is between Ministry of Finance, ZRA, and also on the other side, I think Ministry of Mines and also the mining companies, because as the Ministry of Finance, we hold shares in these companies. On the other issues, Chair, let me ask CG, I think, to provide the answers. Thank you.
Thank you, CG. You can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. So on the XRF analyzers, we can provide the information on which of the borders have them and which ones don't have them. And in terms of plans going forward, we have intentions to procure some in 2024. So that's one of the issues that we've targeted to just to replenish and ensure that we have the machines at the key borders. Then I'll jump the one on the bonds. My colleague, Commissioner Customs, will start with that, and then I'll pick it up. Then the issue of the impact of the exchange rate, of course, it will continue to impact our performance in the sense that we correct, maybe aware, mineral rate and other mining-related taxes in US dollars. So when the exchange rate reduces, we go back into, when converting into kwacha, it means the revenue collected will be lower. But when the exchange rate the kwacha depreciates, it means we'll collect more. So you will still have to live with that for some time. Yeah. Then the question you've raised, Honorable, we take ourselves back to what was the policy assumptions for 2022. Among others was that from 1st January, taxes on fuels will be reinstated. That was assumption for 2022. Like you've rightly said, before that, there was suspension on customs duty and others, but there was a policy intention to reinstate the taxes on the fuels with effect from 1st January. But just a few, maybe weeks before that, there was a bit of reversal that we extend, okay, from January. Initially it was no, let's go to June. When it reached June, we extended further to September. So the policy intention and the assumption in the revenue to be collected, there was already built in an expectation that we'll be collecting customs duty on fuel. So that wasn't adjusted in our target. That's the main issue that was at hand there. So it was only from 1st October last year, that's when we started collecting now, when the SI is expired. So that was the position on those issues. I'll ask my colleague, Commissioner for Customs, just to explain, Chair, it's true it's a 5-year issue, but maybe we explain what we're doing and how far we've gone so far in terms of calling up the bonds. Commissioner, over to you, Customs.
Thank you, Commissioner Customs. You can proceed, though there is a question which is hanging, the one for Honorable Mfarare. I think, has it been addressed, sir?
No, Chair, it hasn't been addressed. I think everyone who is answering, they seem to be skating around it. But we are asking this question, PS and CG. I think it will be difficult to convince a villager like me, PS, when you tell me that KCM is failing to pay taxes because they are underperforming or they have issues. When the liquidator, maybe, well, I don't know whether the liquidator or the caretaker was getting enough. It becomes, out there they are asking, what is it that they are talking about, those people seated around that table? Because you have a liquidator who was enjoying, or someone who was taking care, but everything seems to have been very well. So that's why that's the more reason I think we're asking, what informed or what is informing you to decide to say no, they won't pay anything new, because they are going through these difficulties. Yet, through the newspapers, as citizens, we see someone who was enjoying these same collections from the same mines. What justification do we give to continue or to have left out the collection of the taxes that are meant for the poor people? I submit, Chair.
Thank you. Maybe you can quickly, PS, react to that, then Commissioner Customs will come through. I know, honorable colleagues, we've spent so much time on these two. I know that they are very hot issues, but we should be making some progress looking at time. So, PS, you can proceed and give us your submission.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, honorable members, I think, of the committee, I think the operation of these mining companies, they survive on revenues. And then you take into account their costs, and are they able to meet the costs and the overhead for them to remain sustainable? Now, if you look at the situation of KCM, they are the smelter, where they are getting some of those mineral ores. They are being imported and being processed. And their revenues are coming from processing, not necessarily exporting, because the minerals were not for themselves. Now, those are some of the sources. They are the companies who are giving them the minerals so that they process. They stopped. So that's one avenue where they lose the income, and they can't meet their operational cost. So in the meantime, they have to take care of the employees. Otherwise, if they don't, then it becomes also a situation. So it's a complex issue, Chair. Or you can't just say that, no, because we are operating and can you pay the taxes? So we were actually each particular option, what policy option or the decision government can make. So we try to find a solution. The government is trying to find a solution, but in the meantime, literally there was no production to talk about that these companies were operation. In the case of Mopani are the lesser problem, but the issue is they are some investment to are made, but the operational fund for them to be able to speed up the production and the operation. That's why the issue, they couldn't fund the kind of financing which they required. That's why government wanted, I think, the new investor to come in so that they bring necessary capital. So all these issues, Chair, they look at the operation first. They need to pay employees. They need to maintain. I think in the case of KCM, the pumping of water has to go on. Whether the company is operating, selling or not, they need to make sure that the water doesn't flood the mine. So in the meantime, certain operation I think will be done. In the meantime, they need electricity. So electricity need to be paid for them to continue. So there are multiple, Chair, problem, but maybe what would be ideal, Chair, maybe this committee may wish to invite this company so that maybe you hear for themselves in terms of what really transpired, so that they come and tell the truth, Chair. I submit, Chair.
Thank you. PS Ulav. Commissioner Customs, you can make your submission.
Thank you, Chair, through CG and PS. With respect to bonds, there are a number of issues that are affecting the management of bonds, including the system itself, the SCUDA. So we had to make some upgrades so that we could have improve on the data integrity. Then also we had to do some reconciliations as well as cleaning up of bonds. That's the reason that I think, as indicated by CG area, we are moving to a system, the e-bond system, to improve integrity of bonds, or to ensure that we don't have fraudulent bonds being submitted to us. Now, after we did some these reconciliations to come up with a correct picture for us to have effective enforcement, we have put in place a number of measures, which include daily strong monitoring mechanism, and also a system-based control of automatic suspensions. Immediately somebody goes beyond the statutory due date, and also instituted a strong monthly bond redemption enforcement mechanism, as well as restricting non-complying guarantors of the bonds, giving or putting them on embargo in terms of supply of new bonds. So if we look at even the current position, even as at today, those amounts reflected have actually reduced by even 50%. We are about 90% for those stations that have been reflected in the report. So that's the current status we have on the queue.
Commissioner, just pause. I don't want you to mislead this committee. Just a clarification, yes, because you are saying now 90%. If we look at the table on page 10, I think that this is the same table. Between 31st July this year and October, if you look at Nakonde, the only movement is 2, isn't it? From 30 to 28, I stand to be guided. For Kasumbalesa, 158 to 129, yes, there's some movement. But if you look at Chirundu, 20 to 19, so maybe elaborate on the 90%. Maybe we are not understanding this table. That's my own perception, that between July to October, we still have no serious movement in terms of, I don't know if it's redeeming, whatever you call it, with these issues of bonds, or maybe I'm misinterpreting the table. I stand to be guided. Honorable Mfalari.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I think the Commissioner should really help us on this matter. This is, according to this table, this is actually a table of transit. These are vehicles that, or items that are moving from one port to the other for them to exit. And as of July 2023, you had 30 items or transactions that should have been acquitted, whichever port they were using. And the only acquittal from this is there are only 2 acquittals. And this is what it means when you are saying they are in transit. So you have only acquitted 2 items. So the systems, the system that you are using as customs, I think, is so weak to a point where you actually, as you come before this committee, Chair, you don't know where these items are. That's what we could just assume, that these transactions that happened, that were recorded as of 31st July 2023, when they were recorded or when they were verified by the Auditor General, you have only acquitted 2. Where are the rest? And that's why I think the committee is saying your system is quite weak. Say an item is bonded or is put on transit from Kazungula. Is there a point where they have to indicate before you have the tracking systems that you are going to use, the electronic tracking system, do they report anywhere? If they are going to Congo, do they just drive all the way into Congo, or when they reach Lusaka port, they indicate they have reached, so that you are able to monitor? Or is there any monitoring on the way? Because this is what it is.
Honorable Mkumbi.
Yes, Chair. Just in addition to that, Chair, I don't know the reasons why ZRA, for instance, would not have desk officers from the source. We've seen this happen in many areas where probably copper is mined or where gold is mined and all that. I'm saying so because, Professor Sorwezi, we know Kansansha has some elements of gold, and there's a gold vault there. How is it transported, for instance? Who manages it? We see police officers escorting up to the airport and the plane goes in another direction. So those are some of the areas that you probably can look at in terms of from the source to the end. As long as you only confine yourselves to the exit points, there's so much happening in between the roads themselves. Take, for instance, Horizon Karumbira, where we are. There are so many Chinese smelters, so many, and they're smelting copper in the night. Who manages such? Chair, I submit.
Thank you. Okay, we have those three submissions. Let the Commissioner Customs make clarifications. Then Honorable Lumai, Honorable Wamnima, Honorable Daka, you can come. You can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Just a correction. I'd indicated 50%, not 90. I was indicating that when I was checking, I was trying to amplify on the monitoring system that we have instituted. And starting especially August and coming forward, we have instituted what I call the system automatically locks out a declarant who has not attended to their transits, both RIB, removal on bond, and removal on transit. So what I was trying to say is that we have instituted these measures, and we are at a prime of licensing, taking to advantage of the period of licensing to ensure that no one gets a renewal of license if they have anything that is outstanding. So apart from that, recently, but a month ago or so, we instituted bond redemption mechanism, which will be on a monthly basis, automatic. That will now, instead of dealing with clearing agents, we are now going directly to the guarantors. I have a list here, which is under process of about 24 million, which is in queue for garnishing for those that are non-compliant. So I was saying that we have also restricted new bonds from those that are non-compliant, the guarantors. So that's the statistic that I was giving, was trying to give today's position just to indicate the effectiveness of the current measures that we have instituted, that we are at 19 as of today compared to the 42 that was reported in the table that has been referred to. I submit, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Customs. But now you are telling the PS that he should withdraw his submission, because which means it's not factual. It's not giving us the actual status. I don't know when it was responded to. In my own thinking, that's what it seems, because which means we are dealing, this is not the actual status at ZRI, which we are dealing with PS, because that's why we are dissenting to what the Commissioner of Customs is saying. We do understand that might be the position, but as you, PS, you know, you're a veteran. This committee doesn't work on speculation. We work on what is submitted and what evidence. So if it's possible, would want that information, because they are still coming even tomorrow to come and appear before this committee. But otherwise, this issue is not conclusive, as it were. Honorable Wamnyima, Honorable Lumai, and Honorable Daka, in that order. Honorable Wamnyima, Honorable Lumai, Honorable Wamnyima, then Honorable Daka. you can proceed and let's make some progress. Also, I think this issue is very topical, and I think there are a lot of questioning, but we should make some progress as well. We've got paragraph 7. Looking at time, by 30, if we don't do paragraph 7, we'll do it together tomorrow, and so that we can also just do justice to paragraph 6 in terms of questioning, because tomorrow there's paragraph what? 16, which the ministry is coming to submit. So Honorable Amnima, Honorable Lumai, you can proceed.
Mr. Chairman, going by your submission that we appear as a committee to have two positions regarding the response to the same query from the Commissioner and from the PS, I would then, Mr. Chairman, maybe propose that, if possible, ZRA can give us another response to the same query so that they can help us understand on the transactions, Nakonde, Chirundu, Kazungula, Kasumbalesa, so that we can understand how they are moving, in which direction to resolve this matter. I don't know if that would be their position. And also, Chair, I made a query as to why they are not putting in tougher measures to punish the offenders than just suspending the TPN for a clearing agents.
Thank you. I'll give guidance on that. Honorable Amnima.
Chair, there was a question earlier raised by Honorable Mai, Honorable Mfalali. So, it was not answered adequately, but I would like to get an answer from the PS. I do understand you have a tax policy review committee. Definitely, you should have. Perhaps ZRA, Ministry of Finance, maybe Bank of Zambia. Now, why are you having different positions if you review this tax policy together? Then, number 2, Chair, has the PS noticed that year in, year out, for the last 5 years, your tax policy, the mines are declaring losses? Have you noticed that the mines are always declaring losses when it comes to revenue collection? Even when there's the market price in the London Metal Exchange is high, it's a good price, they're always declaring losses. So, Chair, I think they must help us. This tax policy review committee, why do we have a policy, a tax policy where mines can declare losses? Chair, the liquidator, the court was asking him to pay in excess of $53 million, which he earned. This is KCM, which was not making money. So who was paying him the $53 million? So we need to understand why we have a policy that year in, year out, the mines don't make money, they have cash flow problems, but they are operating. They are not closing. So I submit, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Daka.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, first of all, I would like to agree with the PS that we should summon these mine owners, because as far as the committee is concerned, we haven't gotten any satisfactory response from them. So it's in the interest of the nation, and indeed our own interest as a committee, we should summon these mine owners. That's the first issue. Chair, in the interest of progress, I would like to take the controlling officer to D, failure to collect taxes on various imports. Chair, we have these 1,326 transactions, which are translating to 68 million uncollected tax. Chair, I want to understand, why is it that the authority is failing to comply with the law of collecting revenue from imports within 5 days? Why is it difficult to comply? My chairman, I submit.
Thank you. On the first one, we'll give guidance as we'll be concluding. We'll advise PS on the progress on that, as well as Honorable Honorable Lumai's submission. So PS, as you proceed to answer Honorable Amnima's question and Honorable Daka's question, I also want to just find out what measures you've put in place to address the issue of withholding VAT to that effect. And I think briefly, as you make submission, if it's CG, I just want to have a synopsis, understand this withholding VAT. I've perused through the submission and some letters to some companies, CCS, Chambeshi something, and all that, just to try and have conceptualize this, how this withholding VAT works, and as it were. Thank you. You can proceed, PS.
Thank you, Chair. Let me address the issue from Honorable Mnima regarding the Tax Policy Review Committee. The Tax Policy Review Committee is a multi-institutional committee which meets on an annual basis, especially when we are preparing the budget. We get submission from the taxpayers or the different stakeholders, and the committee analyzes so that they can understand in particular sector what is tenable. Then on the basis of that, then they make recommendation to the Minister of Finance, and who present to Cabinet, on the basis of which certain measures are approved by Cabinet. So this is it's not a standing committee. It's only at the time when we're preparing the budget, and that's when they give direction and make recommendation, which recommendation may even come to Parliament through amended legislation to see that this is the direction I think government wants to go, and also to support the budget presented by the Minister of Finance. So in the interaction with this committee, they come up with new information. Sometimes they even visit companies to understand what is tenable on the ground, so that when a decision is made, is based on on facts and information on the ground. Because you may impose a tax while you are eating actually that particular company, and the other effect, I think, in terms of lost employment, the company may close. So we avoid, I think, doing that, and ensure that we are factual and we interact with the different companies so that we get first-hand information. So on the basis of that, the whole intention, Chair, is to balance the collection of revenue, and at the same time also revenue is available for government expenditure, but also on the other side we support the growth of this industry so that the cake can be bigger, more revenues can be collected from these companies. Then that's how the economy, I think, survives. So government is able to get the taxes, meet its expenditure obligation, but at the same time we are trying to provide incentives also for the companies so that they are new which are created, but also they survive. Because, Chair, it's like you get a cow, you are getting milk out of it. If you don't feed the cow, it may not provide you with milk. So you need to balance getting the milk but also feeding the cow, so that at the end of the day the companies are able to operate, offer employment, and also pay the taxes, but at the same time also they survive. So this is the balancing act which we do as a Ministry of Finance to ensure that the policies are both conducive for private sector investment and thriving. At the same time also it provides also a base for government to raise more revenues and invest in its public expenditure. Let me ask the other issues, Chair, the CG to provide clarification. Thank you.
Thank you, PS, and thank you, Chair. I'll start with a question you raised, Chair, on the outstanding transactions on various imports. As you've rightly noted, as at 31st July, there were 1,326 amount with a value of 68.9 million. But now they've reduced to 204, from 1,326 to 204 entries with a value of 26.8 million. Now, when you go to the table on the page 11, it explains the reasons why we have these transactions still outstanding. As you can see, the number one reason there is government debt. These are transactions for government-related transactions, where we have 27% of those. Then we have those that are pending rebates. There are various transactions where they are waiting for the issuance of rebates to facilitate the imports. Again, that's another 15%. Then there are cases where they are under appeals, where we have a 10% and so forth. So that's a category of the reasons why we have delays on those. But overall, If you look at the proportion of the total volume of transactions that are imported, where our collection rate is in the range of above 95% in terms of processing efficiency. What comes in, turning it into revenue. So that's what we look, when you compare to overall how much was collected versus what is remaining uncollected. That's what maybe I can clarify on that aspect. Then I'll ask my colleague, Acting Commissioner Catherine, just to explain the withholding VAT mechanism. It's good that Substantive Chair can also hear what the question he asked. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and through CG and through PS. So, honorable members, when you look at the withholding VAT mechanism, the challenge we had as ZRA was a lot of non-compliance. So this was non-compliance from the suppliers to the government, from the suppliers to the large taxpayers. So you find that these are taxpayers that are being paid by the government. However, they are not remitting the taxes. Again, for those that are supplying the mines, they are not remitting taxes. However, when you look at the mines, predominantly they export. So you find that they're in a refund position. And when you look at the claiming, we use the accrual basis. So whether you've paid or not, you get the refund. So the refunds to these mining companies became a drain on the revenue base because we are not receiving the outward VAT from the suppliers. So that's how come we actually introduced this mechanism. We transferred the obligation from the supplier to the agent, so that we are able to collect that VAT, even when subsequently we are making refunds, payments, we will have received the VAT. But I'm sure, honorable members, you've seen from the submissions, the outstanding withholding VAT that was withheld as that end of 2022, 10 billion was unremitted. And some of the reasons that the suppliers were using were the cash flow challenges. Then the other reason that they were using, I'm sure you may be aware, honorable members, the outstanding VAT refunds. So their claim was, why should we pay ZRA when they are got outstanding refunds to be paid to us? So because of that, it was very, very clear that the mechanism did not realize the intended purpose or objective. So this is when these letters are, Chair, that you made reference to, we have now suspended the withholding of VAT from the agents themselves as well as from the large taxpayers. So what we are going to see right now is there will be a reduction in terms of refund from the suppliers, because through the withholding, some of the suppliers actually became refund taxpayers. So we have transferred back the obligation to the supplier. So once they invoice, whether they received the payments or not, they are supposed to pay the taxes. So this is where we are, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments, Auditor General? Is there any comment to this issue? Nothing?
No, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Mwila and Honorable Mfalari.
Thank you, Chair. And the submission on the withholding tax, I've followed the explanation, and thank you. I had the same question. I needed to understand what this means. But now from the explanation, I get it that we are reverting back to the way it was before introduction of this system. This withholding tax system meant to cure the problem that existed then. And now we have realized from this submission, it is still not helping matters. And now we go back to what did not work. How are we moving forward? We seem to go back to the problematic situation. It seems like we are not sorting out this problem of the VAT, especially with the mines or these big entities. Have we run out of ideas for us to go back to what did not work? I'm worried, Chair, and I seek, that clearance. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mfaradi.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I've looked at the submission by the PS on paragraph 6. My question is, controlling officer, you Your submissions on page 11, page 10, going up to 11, where you are putting these figures. What challenges did you have for you to submit these figures at the time when the auditors were visiting you? And are these answers, Chair, have they been verified by the Auditor General? And I've checked it through to show proof of what you are alleging on page 10 to see whether you have attached anything that will indicate that you have actually done what you are alleging to have done in your submission. Unless I have not checked properly, maybe you could advise. Otherwise, I think as they stand, there is no proof to show that what they are alleging actually is what has happened after the audit query. The other item, Chair, is I heard the PS saying there is a balancing act in terms of ensuring that some companies survive in terms of coming up with revenue, tax revenue measures. Now, earlier in your submission, you talked about ensuring that if there are any queries in terms of compliance, you are going to ensure that there will be no tax clearance. And tax clearance for small companies is key, because without tax clearance, they can't give them any business. So how do you intend to ensure that the smaller companies that are not compliant benefit from this benefit from this balancing act that you are talking about, in order for them to continue running? Because once you cut off the tax clearance beginning 2024, as you have put it, then they are out, and then the liabilities that they have on UCG won't be paid. So how do you intend to balance up that? I submit, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Wamnyima. Then the PS can proceed and answer.
Thank you, Chair. The CG, your tax arrears they've increased to almost 97 billion. And in your submission, you've indicated that you have engaged private businesses in various sectors to be tax collecting agents on behalf of the authority by withholding taxes before paying suppliers of goods and services. Now, is this working when your tax arrears keep going up? How effective is this if your tax arrears are already going up? I submit, Chair.
Thank you. PS, you can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. On maybe the last question, which is Honorable Nima said that the appointing tax agents, is it working? Maybe on the government side, I'm saying that it's working. Because as we interact with the ZRA, we have that information. So before we pay any supplier, we withhold that money, and that money will remit actually to Zambia Revenue Authority. But on the other, maybe the private sector, probably CG will make comment. On the other issue, Chair, the proof of the submission, because if you look at the last component, we are looking at numbers here. I thought by showing the movement in terms of whether there is a reduction and an increase, that's what will indicate in terms of whether we are making progress on this particular issue, because this has been an outstanding issue, Chair, which we keep on monitoring. But I think we believe the numbers we have shown is the evidence that they are making progress or we are not making progress, so that we also add other measures which we are putting in place to ensure that this issue is resolved. But Chair, moving forward, because in the collection of revenue we don't stop. It's a continuous process. So the imports are done, then you clear. It's a continuous process, but we understand from the committee's point of view is that we need to ensure that at least the time is maintained. While you are doing that, we don't have these the issues, I think, outstanding, so that there is that efficiency in the way when the imports are done, tax is collected, then it comes to government. So it's an issue, Chair, where we keep on improving. And in terms of the evidence, Chair, the Auditor General, I think will come. Then they will look at the documentation. Then from there, they will make an opinion to see whether we are making progress on that, or not. Let me ask the CG to answer the other question, Chair.
Thank you. CG, you can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. I will start with Honorable Mira's question. Why are we going to an odd system? I think we need to look at what was the withholding VAT meant to address. Of course, what general non-compliance on VAT. So there were about 103, or somewhere there, agents that were appointed. These are government plus the large mines and large companies as agents. Now, in the first 1-2 years, the mechanism worked very well, such that VAT was a positive performer. We got some good performance from VAT. But over the years, we found that increasingly the withholding VAT agents would withhold the money but not pay to ZRA. And part of the reasons, like my colleague has indicated, is that we had a challenge building up on the other side, in that there will be VAT claims made for refunds, but we are not paying. So we reached a position by October 2021 such that we are on an average, on a monthly basis, would receive claims of about 1.6 billion kwacha. Would only pay about 800 to 850 million, almost half. So on one side, we're not paying the refunds. The other side, they're withholding and not giving to ZRA. So the mechanism with the ministers and ministry support, we introduced in November 2021 is that let's increase the refunds. We increase the refunds from 850 million to 1.3 billion per month. And that's where now we've said, as we're increasing the refunds payout, let's also start putting up measures which will ensure that those who are withholding are also paying. So what we've done so far is to remove the withholding for among the agents. These are the 103 of somewhere there, big players. We said, when you are trading with each other, don't withhold, because we know who you are, we know we can find you. We've done this also for the large taxpayers. But for the small ones, remember, some of them we can't trace them. And this is where the original problem was. For those, we've not removed the withholding. If you're a big player, you are still dealing with a small person, a small supplier, an SME, who we can't easily trace, still withhold as a big player, and then remit to ZRA. So that's how we've cushioned the problem. And so far, we're seeing good results. We may come back with a different story for VAT. We're not promising, but we're seeing a turnaround. Then going forward, most importantly, is for us to go into the electronic invoicing system. That's very key. When transactions are conducted within an electronic invoicing system environment, whoever is a seller and a buyer, the information will instantly sit with ZRA. So we already know, including VAT exposure in terms of refunds, we already know in advance, since we have the data of who sold to who and so forth. So that's one of the major reforms, as the minister indicated, that we need to implement going forward. So we are going backwards strategically, but cushioning some of the issues, maybe just to clarify on that. Then we are honorable in terms of the tax clearance certificate. Yes, we are in an environment where there are very high levels of non-compliance. The things we deal with as ZRA are extremely shocking. Extremely shocking. We have taxpayers, some of them SMEs, actively importing goods, exporting goods. They come and file new returns. They say, I'm not doing any business. New and zero returns. Some of them suppliers to government, being paid a lot of money. They come to ZRA and say, no, I'm not doing any business. So we need to start curing this problem we have. And SMEs are not an exception to this. But to play the balancing act the PS talked about, we are not going to squeeze them immediately, say, no, we won't give you a tax clearance certificate. We are saying, please file all your returns. Then if you are owing ZRA any money and you are not able to pay, can we sign a time to pay agreement? By when are you going to pay? So at a minimum, those are the conditions we'll put for you to get a tax clearance certificate. So that's what we're looking at in terms of cushioning that problem. Then, excuse me, on the tax arrears, if you look at page 6, Honorable, you turn to page 6. Of course, overall, the arrears increased from 85 billion, 85.7 billion to 97.8 billion from 2021-2022. But you look at the Auditor General's submission, the principal tax actually reduced from 64 billion to 61 billion. The interest equally reduced from 18 billion to 11 billion. What increased were the penalties. So you can see that the interventions such as the tax amnesty contributed to the reduction of the principal taxes as demonstrated by the Auditor General's own finding there. So some of these strategies excuse me, are working, honorable. But going forward, I think it's for us to intensify all these methods, including third-party collection from among the different stakeholders. So we submit for now in terms of our position. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Mkumbi, can we have the last intervention?
Thank you, Chair. The CG, how do you determine who should remain with the agent or those that are graduating? Is there any ceiling in terms of monetary gains that a person, probably company, gets? You have said that smaller ones have remained with agents, and those, major ones have graduated. Is there a ceiling, or what amounts are we looking at here? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Yes.
There are two questions I think that have not been. I think there was a question on the 5 days on Askuda World, I think, which was asked by Honorable Daka. Yes. So what is the challenge you are finding? Why don't you ensure that these 5 days is adhered to? Why are you finding it a challenge to adhere to your own rules for this to be effective? Yeah, and then I think, Chair, we would also want to, because the Auditor General has not gone through these. He hasn't verified. The standard procedure of our committee is until verification, then we can proceed.
Okay, I will give guidance on that. Maybe PS, you can answer the last two questions. Then now we wind up.
Chair, let me ask the CG, I think, to provide the answers.
CG.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, PS. On the 5 days, we explained, Chair, when the Honourable Member was the substantive Chair, we had indicated that there was a movement from 1326 to 204. But in terms of the reasons, on page 11, where you can see that the transactions that are government debt, transactions that are pending issuance of rebates and under appeals, that's the reason we have the 26 million outstanding. But overall, in terms of the proportion of transactions that were successfully processed and revenue collected, we had collections of in excess of 95%. That's what I'd indicated to the committee. I submit. The other one was which one?
Mkumbi's question, what benchmark do you, yes.
The issue is that we have the large, the 103 agents, they are mainly those that fall into our large taxpayers categories. And they are in sectors that are actively dealing with maybe small scale suppliers, for example, mining sector and even government, those we appointed as agents. Now, those that have, so in short, the category were just limited, 103. We haven't dropped them. We haven't dropped the 103. Is it 103 or 5? 105, yeah. We haven't dropped, they're still the same 105. We have just changed the conditions. So when they do transactions between each other, as 105, a large taxpayer against another one, we said don't withhold VAT. But if you deal with any small taxpayer, withhold. Because we can see you are the agent, you are the bigger firm, but remit it to us. So that has started mitigating the risk of companies withholding, but not remitting to ZRI. I thought maybe, I hope that clarifies. No,
it doesn't. Thank you. The question, Chair, was how do you determine? Okay? For instance, you have this, say Rumana Mine is withholding for smaller companies. How do you determine the smallness of a company? Do you have a ceiling? How much money are we looking at here? Who is small?
Okay. I'll ask my colleagues, but they must be VAT registered. They just amplify on that.
Yes, you can proceed.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair, and through CG and through PS. So we have a category, what we call large taxpayers office. So we have got a definition for who should be in that office. So the first definition is on the turnover. So for the businesses that has an annual turnover of 50 million, then you should fall in this category. Then we have got specialized businesses, the big mining companies. We have got insurance. We have got the banking, and we have got the government institutions. So altogether right now, we have got about 1,070 somewhere there who are called large taxpayers. So everyone else becomes a small and medium taxpayer. So those are the people where the agents have continued to withhold the VAT. I hope, Honorable Member, that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Honorable colleagues, we need to wind up our meeting. PS, you have a last submission?
Chair, I think earlier when you indicated that the acting accountant general signed the letter that he wanted to appear today, she had a meeting with, involving the IMF and government. So I was seeking your indulgence. Maybe since tomorrow we are appearing, I can request her to come with us, although she is a permanent witness of your committee, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, PS and your team. Just a few guidance. I think it will be at the benefit of the members that KCM and Mopani can come through and make clarifications to that effect. Do indicate the staff needed who can come and answer some of those submissions from the honorable members. And then also there was a submission from Commissioner Customs on the movement in terms of RIB and RIT. Would want that information so that it can extinguish this outstanding issue. Then also just a comment, CG, in terms of the tax arrears. I think the movement is not much. If you look at 64 and 61, it's just about 3. So that you can do much better on that aspect. Yes, we see we know you are doing all you can do possible to ensure that we collect more. Issues of withholding VAT. I think it's also imperative as you bring that information that we have a status and just look at what's outstanding as well for the benefit of the committee, as it were. So with that said, clerk also, I think you coordinate with a team to ensure that we have those people requested to come and support this submission. With that said, PS and CG and your entire entourage, we thank you most sincerely for coming before this honorable committee and make your submission and clarification to the queries emanating from the Office of the Auditor General's report. We are grateful for your coming, and as it were, I think on paragraph 7, we'll tackle it tomorrow, questioning, and you present your paragraph 16 to that effect. And honorable colleagues, I encourage that we are precise with the questions and not make further submissions so that we can manage our time effectively. So I do thank you most sincerely. And PS and CG, let me take this opportunity to lift the immunity which was conferred before you. That is lifted, and you are free to go. Thank you so much, and have a good afternoon.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members of the committee.
You can now advertise on Parliament Television and Parliament Radio. For more information, call 0977 854102 or 0977 536487. Parliament Television, bringing Parliament closer to you. You can now advertise on Parliament Television and Parliament Radio. For more information, call 0977 854102 or 0977 536487. Parliament Television, bringing Parliament closer to you.
There were 59,439 registered cashew nut farmers in Western Province.
The situation as it is, I'm incapacitated.
The good people of Petauke, especially in Nika 1, where we don't have water.
This is now a serious risk on the people with Testezi. Last week we registered one maternal death.
Within the CDF, we can build palaces for all chiefs in our country.
Minister, when are we going to have money? When are we going to construct those?
Catch us live on DSTV channel 272, OTV channel 28, Topstar channel 5, or visit the National Assembly of Zambia Facebook page. Parliament Television, bringing Parliament closer to you. You can now advertise on Parliament Television and Parliament Radio. For more information, call 0977 854102 or 0977 536487. Parliament Television, bringing Parliament closer to you.
Sweet melodic
Galaya music.
It's Josina. Daga unkabulu saga guava mama. Daga tana jibebe jamwana. Daga unkabulu saga guava mama. Daga tana jibebe jamwana. Jibebe jamwana. Jibebe jamwana. Daga tana jibebe jamwana. Daga tana jibebe jamwana. Awe puto palibe. Tumi sango nili na topa. She love me every day, na. Suba yanga on a rainy day. Na papa da baby, don't ever take your love away. Ninkala daily baby, ningo smile. She kondi chako mandi chini fiki za padali mama. Utandi si mebo, utandi legi mebo. Sego chigonya mebo, ukala indike baby. Oh, daga unkabulu saga guava mama. Daga tana jibebe jamwana. Daga unkabulu saga guava mama. Daga tana jibebe jamwana. Jibebe jamwana. Jibebe jamwana. Daga tana jibebe jamwana. Daga tana jibebe jamwana.
It's the way that you make me feel every time I'm around you, babe. Every minute in I feel like kulida wina ninga fele ile. Sungila mutima pantu shaka teme umi. You're the only one my heart really wants. Sungila mutima pantu shaka teme umi. You're the only one my heart truly wants. Never I want worry jana musangwa kwa marondo. Never I want worry jana musangwa kwa marondo.
Daga unkabulu saga guava mama. Daga tana jibebe jamwana. Daga unkabulu saga guava mama. Daga tana jibebe jamwana.
Jibebe jamwana. Jibebe jamwana. Daga tana jibebe jamwana. Daga tana jibebe jamwana.
Galaya music.
Sugar body neba. Uka musunge wino. Ekalomba toti na sugar body neba. Diye tunga wana kamba. Diye tunga wana news. Diye wana kamba. Diye wana news. What's the matter, small matter, tinkad. Hello man, you wonder, small matter, the reason why. Ni tuntu tungono, twetule tamso konezo. Itirile flower, don't wait for things to get sour. Give us some attention, asaipeze kulibenda weyo. Show us some affection, wasamupa sebenda weyo. A little bit of kiss, touch, a little bit of watch around a good life. A little bit of something dead. Nikuuza you thank me later. Uka musunge Swag Ministries. Dopest, freshest. Yo boy, yo mom. Yo Stash, we're back. Kalandanya Music Promotion. Let's go. You've always been there for me. It's amazing the way that you care for me. Now my plan is younger, you prepare for me. So, mutima tengali, china niza mipasa ni chani. Nichetekela ya nupulani, nasekula madozi ngenani. When I feel like I'm losing it, gifted the way that I'm using it. When I feel like itimu to chakula na budisha muna dignity. Na mapalo ya tumpika, natamba vyo kumona timitika. May I never forget why